BBC Radio Berkshire with Aha and Take On Me. Now they say, don't they, that there's a novel in all of us, and writing one was the dream of my next guest. The problem was, though, you see, Joanna Louise Wright is a very busy woman. She's a mum of teenagers in Caversham Heights. She's a dance and movement teacher, but nonetheless, she recently made her dream finally come true. Benchmark is her debut novel, and she's not finished yet, as we're about to discover. Hello, Joanna.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Corny question, but it must be done. Without giving everything away then, what is your debut novel Benchmark about?
Okay, it's about the protagonist, Alana Levy. She's a struggling single parent at the age of 21. She has young children. She's come out of a very difficult relationship and she finds herself at a low point in life. Mm-hmm. And just at that point, she meets a charming man at a wedding and falls head over heels. And it's about the story over 10 years, about their relationship, how that intertwines, but also about her own personal journey of discovery and healing and empowerment, really.
Right. And where did that idea come from?
It is heavily based on my own personal experience.
I see. As soon as you started saying about it, I was sort of, dare I put it that directly? No, I'm going to be a bit safer, but it is about you, right? It
is. It's based on my life and the experiences, but more so the emotions. So the emotions are real, and I've drawn on those experiences.
So it's not exactly your biography,
no.
But you were the starting point.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, how much writing had you done before?
I had started to do journaling writing, like journaling every day, just things at the end of the day. And I'd started to do that. And I'd done that for probably about 5 years before I thought, right, I think I'm ready to write a book. And then it took me another 4 years.
You weren't one of these people who were, even at school, you were writing, long stories and putting them away in your drawer?
I was at school. I did do that at school. I loved English. I loved writing. And I thought as a child that I would write a book. But then life happened. And things stop you. And I think I'd got to the point where I didn't believe I could do that. And it took me a long time to build up the confidence. And I'd done a lot of personal development work. And to a point where I thought to myself, right, now is the time to give myself that challenge.
So many interesting things you say there. First of all, there is this strange thing, isn't it, that children, and pretty much all children, can invent characters and stories and scenarios, often, really wacky, out there scenarios, and think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And nearly all of us lose that in adult life. I've often wondered to what extent that's a normal part of growing up, and to what extent, if we lived in a different culture,
I
we
totally
would be able to continue.
am with you there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things are dumbed down and dreams are kind of squashed. Just sort of everyday life. You're supposed to get a job and you do this and you've got to get the money. Yeah. And sometimes that creativity is kind of squashed with everyday life.
Doesn't it make you wonder what we could achieve as a country or a world if it was nurtured rather than squashed?
That is one of my main passions now, and I am hugely into personal development, hugely into coaching people. My next book, which I haven't said anything about today yet, is called Thinklesticks, which is actually a doodle book, which is all to do with personal development and trying to make us think a bit more deeply and to encourage ourselves to get out there and do those things that we've had inside us.
We must talk about that in a while then. What was all this work that you've been through then to get you in a position to be able to write a novel? Well,
I decided, firstly, I went through therapy to kind of get through past events. And then after I felt like I was just at a good place, I decided to take it a step further and started to read personal development books, one after the other, keep them coming. And I
do they
kept
all say the
questioning
same
myself,
things, or do they conflict and confuse you?
They have all said very similar things in very different ways. So I get something out of every book that I read, and then I do the exercises and I try and put them in place in my life. And it kind of has escalated to a point where I have this self-belief and I have this freedom where I can just take up a project and go for it.
Such discipline to do all this work on yourself.
Discipline is a muscle that you have to, you have to work at.
But I mean, if you're a mother and if you've got a career going on and bills to pay and housework to do, how easy it would be to say, I'll start tomorrow. How did you avoid that?
Well, I had actually read something which said if you wanted to achieve your dream, that you should do it 30 minutes a day. Just start really small and just go 30 minutes a day. So at 9:30 at night, every night, I got my notebook out and I started to write, and it was really difficult sometimes.
Yes.
It was like you're so tired after the day, you've got nothing left to give. But when you put yourself, forwards for this dream, you think, right, I've got to do it. And once you get started, it's a breeze, but it's the starting every night which was difficult.
I don't believe, though, that writing a novel is ever a breeze, even if you're writing your 100th novel. It's a big undertaking.
Breeze may be the wrong word, but once the flow starts coming, it's just, you've got to get started, and that 30 minutes a day just helped me in my discipline.
Right. So no work beforehand specifically about how to write a novel. No courses,
absolutely
writers
none.
Groups, nothing like that.
No, absolutely none.
Wouldn't that have been at least as helpful as the self-help books? Don't you think?
Very much so.
But I wish you had.
But I think because it was such a personal story that I was writing, to be honest, I think I wanted to come from a really authentic place. I wasn't trying to create something for my audience to read. What I was trying to create was my own story out there.
But even so, just the technique, what a great opening paragraph is.
I wish I'd read all that. And actually reading the screenplay book that I'm reading at the moment to try and turn it into a screenplay, that has shown me plot, subplots, character building, and I was thinking, all these things that would have been helpful actually to have read beforehand. But
although when you go back to benchmark with that knowledge, I bet you see most of that.
I do
in the pages anyway,
which is incredible, because I did have none of that. I had none of that knowledge, and yet I see the characters, I see the subplot, I see the emotion. I just think it did need a little bit more description when I read it back. But hey, that was my first one, so...
We'll pick up the story again in just a moment. Joanna Louise Wright of Caversham Heights is my guest at the moment. First-time novelist and now first-time screenplay writer as well. Part 2 of the tale after Annie Lennox on BBC Radio Berkshire. BBC Radio Berkshire, Annie Lennox, Walking on Broken Glass. Don't try that at home. It's 2:18. Bill with you until 4. Talking at the moment to Joanna Louise Wright, who is from Caversham Heights. She's a dance and movement teacher. She's a mother of teenagers. But more to the point, she's a recently self-published first-time novelist who is now in the middle of her first screenplay. Let's talk a bit then about self-publishing. It's not really a world I know much about. I kind of understand the basics of it. The internet, more than anything, has democratized art, hasn't it? If you've got a pop song now, you stick it up there on YouTube, and who knows what might happen. Same with novels. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it was just at the right time for me to have self-publishing be so accessible, because when I'd finished the book, obviously I had this whole manuscript right there. And what do you do with it? So I looked into traditional publishing, and that's a whole minefield. And I had no clue what to do, and also I hadn't got a lot of time because I'm a dance teacher full time. I've got my children, and so I didn't have time to go off and do lots of research. So in the end, it came about that the self-publishing looked like the better route, and actually the more freedom for me to publish it exactly how I wanted to. And I wanted to put some illustrations in, which I have done. The amazing Patricia Lewis, who's a friend of mine, she's done these amazing silhouette illustrations, and I felt that maybe if I went to a publisher, maybe they'd want to change it. So self-publishing was the way to go forward for me, and I found it very easy. Actually, I found it was painstaking to get the document together. It took ages. There's 66 little chapters in the book, and you have to go through it methodically, and it was time consuming in that sense. But the actual information that's out there on the internet to help you now, there's just masses. YouTube, YouTube tutorials, and absolutely there's tons. So if you want to do it, I would say get on the internet, read about it, and do it. It's there.
I was going to say, though, you were saying that, a big publisher might have wanted to change things.
Yeah.
They might have wanted to change things because they have decades of experience in knowing how to change things to make them more successful.
Oh, definitely. And I'm not saying don't do that either. But for my own personal story and situation, I felt like it was something that I could do quite quickly and get it out there and have my book on my shelf exactly how I wanted it, right there, with all the tools that I could use. And to me, it felt like an even bigger achievement, to be honest, to put it all together and have it there.
So it's on the self-publishing bit of Amazon, which is a wonderful resource for people like you,
Create Space.
Create Space, that's right, yes. And there's a Kindle version already?
There is a Kindle version, and that was very easy to transfer the files. So once you've done the files for the manuscript and for the paperback, they just transfer very, very simply to the Kindle version.
And how is it doing?
Yeah, it's doing well, although it has slowed down now because it's been about a year that it's been out. And when the thing about self-publishing is that you also have to self-market. So, and that's the thing that I haven't had the time to do because I've then had full-time back into dance teaching.
Yeah. Got to make a living, got to pay those bills.
But now I've allocated Tuesdays in my timetable as my author day. So I've actually created a day in my timetable now, which is very exciting.
Yes.
So I can work on the screenplay, promotion, marketing, and just so happens it's Tuesday today. So that's good.
So you're skiving.
Yeah, no, I'm on author day, so I can be here.
Oh, so publicising it counts as part of the job.
Absolutely.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Now, do books that are published in this way ever get picked up by the big publishing houses?
Now,
because
that's a good
they
question.
could now be doing all that for you if they picked it up.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that I don't know enough about because I think it's my first one. I'm going to look into next time, would I do the same thing? I don't know. I'm going to look into all those different options.
You could if you wanted, and I'm not trying to push you. I don't know why I'm going down this line of question really, but you could nonetheless take it presumably now to a big publisher.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I've already self-published this. What do you think?
Yep, definitely. And I think, but what I want to try and do first is to create the screenplay, from the book, and have both there and say, look, this is my package. This is what the message I want to get out there. On a larger scale.
Let's talk about the screenplay writing then.
Yeah.
What are the differences? Because you looked all this up and kind of taught yourself online, didn't you?
Yes, and I'm still teaching myself, to be honest. I had the idea on the 6th of May, which isn't that long ago. And at first it felt like such a massive dream, like the biggest thing I could probably undertake. And I thought, how do I do this? It's probably a bit too much for me. But I thought, I'm going to just see. So I ordered some books from Amazon, screenwriting for dummies and some various things. And actually, those dummies books are so good. Yeah. So I've gone through that from start to finish. I've done all the exercises. I now know some of the terminology that I had never heard of before.
One example, please.
Treatment. Screenwriting treatment. Right. I mean, I had never heard of that. So that's what I'm currently working on. So it's like a 15 to 20 page summation.
It's a synopsis, really.
Yeah, it's like a synopsis, but apparently someone told me off. It's actually not a synopsis. It's like a narration,
it's a
summation,
and
right,
okay.
So it's a shortened version, just to see if your story actually fits together nicely.
So you're learning how to do it and doing it at the same time.
At the same time. Yeah,
my goodness,
at the same time.
Right.
And I've now plotted out all the scenes on index cards. So that's another thing that they've told me to do. So I'm just following that and then going to put it all together. And I've looked at some screenwriting software. And
very good.
Yeah, very exciting.
We'll talk some more in a moment or two. Travel and weather on the way, though. Very pleased also to be talking at the moment to Joanna Louise Wright from Caversham Heights, whose first published novel is Benchmark. She's now writing the screenplay to go with it. We were talking a bit about the various things you have to learn to be a screenwriter, all this terminology. And Diamond was saying earlier, they even tell you how you must set it all out, the various lines of dialogue and all that.
Yeah, and that is where I think I probably will struggle and will probably get some advice on that from someone who knows what they're doing. Definitely the software helps, is what I'm getting the idea from these books, that if you've got the right software, it does help, but I do think it's very specific.
Yes.
So that is a skill that I will be developing and obviously getting some support from, I think.
Do you have actors in mind as you write? I mean, especially if you're central character.
Well, this is something that I'm just looking at now, and it's very difficult, actually. And I think I'm going to get friends involved, and I'm going to get lots of people's ideas, because actually I'm not a film buff. I'm not very good at who's hot and who's not, and I don't really know, and so I've got friends who will help me on that, and I'm sure over a glass of wine or something, I'm sure we'll come up with some ideas as to who would be the ideal candidates.
Because I don't know much about the film world either, but I gather that the most important thing is to get a bankable name on board.
Yes.
And then all the other doors open because of that.
Yes, that's right. And that's what I've read as well. But obviously you want someone who's going to be authentic to your character, not just the name. You want someone who's going to play that character, especially Alana, who is just the most important part of the whole story. That's got to be right.
Yes. She's also sort of a bit you, isn't she? So
yes, I've got to. I think I'm at the point now where we're a year down the line. I have distanced myself now from the story, so I see it as benchmark. I see it as Alana. I have now distanced myself, and I'm not so precious about everything. So at the start, I was like, no, I'm not changing this. I'm not changing. But actually, I would change certain things if I thought they would work better for the film industry.
Yeah, very interesting. What advice then do you have to others, either those who haven't got round to writing their novel yet, or maybe have several finished novels or screenplays gathering dust in a drawer? Yeah,
well, I would just encourage you to go for it, because I have had the most amazing adventure. And that's what I call it. It's an adventure. I saw it as that so that it became less pressurized. I didn't put pressure on myself to make it an amazing, best-selling book. I just wanted to get it out there. And people need to read your work. Whose work is out there that we haven't read because they're a little bit scared or a bit nervous. Yeah. And I would just really want to be that encouraging voice that says to you, do it. Yeah. Go out there and do it, because you don't know who needs to read your book. Yeah. And that's
a very good way of looking at it, actually. I like that.
The way I put it out there, and people have emailed me about their own stories and how it's touched them and how my words have helped them. And so you don't know who's out there who needs to read your book. So I would say, do it, please.
And that would apply equally to songwriters, painters.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Art in the whole broad sense needs to be out there, because you don't know who it can touch. And it's not just about you who's putting it out there. It's about all the people that you can reach and help with your art.
Are your teenagers very proud?
Yes, they are. Bless them.
They don't mind that you've had to sort of shove them into second place a little bit.
No, and I think hopefully I didn't do that. I
didn't express that very well. Really,
no, but I was busy, but they were very supportive all the way along. And at my book launch, my youngest son Ronan, he did a speech, and
did he? What did he say?
Very lovely things about how I've changed my life around, and how he's seen the development, and now how he takes inspiration from me. So, but Harvey equally is very supportive.
I imagine you were welling up, weren't you, Mother?
Oh, I was gone. I was gone. Yeah, so was the rest of the room. He's got away with words.
Well, I wonder why. Now, normally in this hour, this is the book club hour, you see.
Right,
and our guests give us recommendations for books that we might like to read.
Okay.
In a moment, can we squeeze a few of those out of you?
Yes, sure.
Fantastic. All right, we'll have a song from Queen first of all. BBC Radio Berkshire, Queen and Somebody to Love. Joanna Louise Wright has been our guest in this hour. She's from Caversham Heights. She's a dance and movement teacher and a mother of teenagers, but more to the point, first-time novelist. Benchmark is her first novel. It's been on Amazon, both in book and Kindle form, for a few months now. She's now in the middle of writing the screenplay to go with it, and she's going to give us a couple of recommendations now for books that we might want to read in the dog days of summer.
Yes.
So what have you got?
We're nearly at the end of summer now, aren't we?
Yeah.
But one of the books that I read at the beginning of the summer was just to completely switch off from work, and I wanted something a bit light-hearted. And so I picked Dawn French's book, According to Yes.
Dawn French, according to Yes, right?
And I just thought, right, she's someone who's always made me laugh. I've never read one of her books, so I was going to give it a shot. And actually, I decided to get the audio version.
Oh, right.
So I stuck my headphones
and presumably she reads that
and
herself.
she reads it herself, and
Yeah.
she's also got other voices as the other characters.
Right,
right.
right.
But oh my goodness, if you're looking for something that's going to really make you laugh and cry a bit, actually, it's quite an emotive storyline there, interwoven.
Without giving it all away, what's it all about?
It's about a girl called Rosie Kitto, and she has a breakup, and she leaves England and she goes to be a nanny in America. And she finds herself with this family who's a bit dysfunctional, not really getting on very well, and she kind of goes in there and she causes all sorts of craziness, but at the end, you see that she's a heartwarming character.
Is it possible to explain the title without giving everything away? It's a great title, don't you think?
It is a great title.
Very arresting.
And it is, basically, she decides to say yes to the situation she finds herself in. But that's not always leading to the best situations for everybody.
Okay.
But it's a fascinating read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as a switch off from all work, and it was just a good laugh. And I'm
always very impressed when people that we know for one thing can do another thing really convincingly.
Yes. And I actually picked up a lot of tips about descriptive writing from her, because she does do descriptive writing very well.
Right.
And
yes.
that's something that I wasn't aware of.
Actually, that reminds me to mention that the book club read for this month is Paul O'Grady's At My Mother's Knee and Other Low Joints, which is his first, which is another good title.
That is brilliant.
That's his first volume of autobiography, which takes you through from him being a very little boy to in his early 20s, I think, in London. And it's my choice actually this month. And
I will read that.
Oh, please do.
I will definitely read that.
He's a lovely, lovely writer. It sounds like him saying it, but it's still very beautiful and polished and warm. It's very warm.
And I wasn't aware that he did write. So.
Oh yes, he's done more than that now.
Okay, I will have a look.
Good writer.
Okay, brilliant.
So there's two for the price of one there.
Yeah.
My recommendation, but also Dawn French, according to Yes. And then just one more, if we may.
Okay, yeah. And this one is not a fictional book. This is a non-fiction personal development book.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're the I'm big on that.
Those, yeah.
So I like to, in the summer, sit back and relax and take something on. And I read Aspire by Kevin Hall.
Aspire by
Kevin Hall. And he takes a look at 11 words. And he breaks down the meaning of the words from the original meanings, a bit etymology, you know, the meaning of words. Yeah. And he takes them and he does a whole chapter on one word and how you can put it into your own life. For one, the best one I found was humility. Oh. So he took one word and he broke down the exact origin of the word and how you can apply it to your own life. But I can't really do it justice here, but it is a fantastic book that I would recommend if you're into personal development or you just want to spark up something in life and to help you to maybe publish your book. I don't know, do something.
Or whatever your own personal
Or whatever
goal.
your personal goal is.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic read and I got a lot from it and I will certainly be reading it again with my notebook in hand.
Very good. That's Aspire by Kevin Hall. Now, often when I talk to a novelist, and you're a novelist now, you know.
I know.
Woo, get you. They're very often well into their next creation. So are you?
Yes, I am. Yes, so as well as the screenplay project that it is kind of on the cards, I'm also writing the sequel to Benchmark, which
right. So
same character, but she's on her next part of her adventure now. And so I've written all the chapter names, I've written all the plan, and it's just filling out the gaps now. And my readers who have read Benchmark are desperate. They're desperate for the next one.
Well,
so I'm hoping
nice.
that it will be round about next summer.
Excellent. Very, very nice to meet you today.
It's
Thank
wonderful.
you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
That was Joanna Louise Wright. If you want to read book number 1, Benchmark is available both in book form and also in Kindle form on Amazon. BBC Radio Berkshire.